Are you kidding me, NFL? What the Baltimore Ravens just did to the Las Vegas Raiders is one of the most absurd moves in free agency history. How does a franchise just back out of a trade for our best player in the dead of night like that? And the million-dollar question, does Maxx Crosby actually want to stay, or are we being held hostage by our own franchise guy? On top of that, how is GM John Spytek going to clean up this monstrous mess of losing 2 first-round picks out of thin air? And get this. Right in the middle of this media circus, our front office made some heavy-hitting moves in free agency that the fan base is completely sleeping on. Moves that completely changed the future of this offense and our boy Fernando Mendoza. Buckle up and smash that like button because things just got real. Masks are coming off, and what I'm about to tell you changes everything for the Raiders in 2026. Today's nuke just dropped and the dust hasn't even settled. The Maxx Crosby trade has been straight up canceled. You heard that right. The Ravens, after agreeing to send 2 incredibly valuable first-round picks to Vegas, just backed out. Their lame excuse? They pulled the failed physical card on Crosby. And you know what the sickest part is? They turned right around and immediately signed another pass rusher on the open market. That is dirty. It's pure unprofessionalism. My immediate reaction? Pure hatred for the Baltimore front office. But then, at the peak of the chaos, Maxx Crosby himself takes to Twitter. The man doesn't post some PR team-approved statement. He posts that legendary gif of The Undertaker rising from the casket, out for blood, and drops the mic with a short and sweet, "I am a Raider." Look, man, we aren't going to sugarcoat things here. The relationship was fractured. We know he wanted to be on a Super Bowl-ready roster, while our front office was mapping out a painful rebuild. Management pushed hard for him to get meniscus surgery, and he pushed back. 2 different timelines. But this forced reunion might just be the biggest plot twist of our generation. With his massive contract crashing back onto our payroll like a meteor, the whole NFL thought we were going to have to cut half of our starters to the curb. Nope. GM John Spytek pulled off a mathematical miracle. He absorbed the cap hit, and we still have $50 million in cap space. What they did with our books is completely surreal. His trade value just tanked thanks to that failed physical lie. We wouldn't get 2 first-rounders for him today. We'd be lucky to scrape together a day 2 pick. Which tells me the front office is now forced to throw the long-term rebuild out the window, embrace the chaos, and compete right now. After all, you don't waste the physical prime of a pissed-off future Hall of Famer. With the pieces we just grabbed in free agency and the #1 overall pick safely in our hands, the window that looked dead and bolted is now blown wide open. Maxx Crosby feels betrayed by the league. He's going to step onto the field wanting to rip Lamar Jackson's head off if we cross paths in the playoffs. He's not just our condor anymore. He's a caged monster on a revenge tour. If you thought the shock value stopped there, hold on to your hats because the collateral damage behind the scenes is at natural disaster levels. We lost the 14th overall pick in this year's draft and a pick that was bound to be incredibly high in 2027, since we all know Lamar is in and out of the medical tent. Do you realize what pick 14 meant in the hands of our new head coach, Clint Kubiak? We've already locked in that quarterback Fernando Mendoza is coming at #1 overall, that's a fact. But pick 14 was going to be the kid's lethal weapon. We were talking about bringing in an elite receiver, an absolute separation machine like Mackay Lemon, or completely bulletproofing the offensive trenches with college monsters like Francis Mauigoa or Spencer Fano. Without that ammo, Spytek is going to have to sweat blood to find a true WR1 on the open market or scrape the bottom of the barrel in the draft. Because let's tell it exactly how it is. They just handed a truckload of cash, $35 million, to Jalen Nailor. You've got to be kidding me. The guy isn't and will never be an alpha receiver. The dude hasn't even hit 500 yards in a single season. It is borderline delusional to think rookie Mendoza is going to come into the league and fix everything with Nailor as his primary safety blanket. What this grotesque trade fiasco exposes is that the NFL's legal tampering period has become the Wild West, and it puts an unfair amount of pressure on our GM's shoulders. Think about it. If Spytek knew the trade was going to fall through, do you really think he would have re-signed Malcolm Kuntz for a king's ransom or brought in Quay? Of course not. Now we've got an overcrowded and massively expensive edge rusher rotation and a colossal black hole in the passing game. Kubiak is going to have to make something out of nothing, and Spytek lost his chance to hit the fast forward button on our rebuild. Mendoza is going to arrive having to play the savior on day one, carrying a bunch of mid-tier receivers on his back against these vicious AFC West defenses. But take a deep breath, because in the middle of this storm, the radar is pinging with some insane moves that this emotional fan base is completely ignoring. Spytek did not play around in free agency. The man opened up the checkbook and made Tyler Linderbaum the highest paid center in NFL history. $27 million a year for an interior lineman. And you know who's going to be sending him a Christmas card every year? Ashton Jeanty. Our running back went through hell last year running behind the worst offensive line in the league in Vegas. Now he gets an elite bulldozer clearing the tracks. Kubiak's ground game is going to be absolutely lethal. And here's the genius part. Spytek kicked all that dead weight on defense to the curb and went all in on a youth movement. He brought in Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker at linebacker. Bro, he just rebuilt that legendary Georgia defense in the desert. Out goes the bizarre sluggishness of Devin White, and in comes pure athleticism with guys who are 25, 26 years old. Everyone we signed is heading into their second contract. It's a young squad hungry to prove their worth. And don't forget about the edge protectors. Jermaine Eluemener and Braden Smith slipped through our fingers, which means the young guys, DJ Glaze and Charles Grant, are going to have to battle it out in a cage match during training camp to see who locks down that starting right tackle spot. It is pure survival of the fittest. Also, read between the lines in the quarterback room. They sent Geno Smith and Kenny Pickett packing without a second thought. Aiden O'Connell is officially the last man standing. What does that tell you? O'Connell is our absolute bridge QB. He knows the system and he's going to take the heavy hits until Mendoza is 100% polished on the sidelines. Obviously, we have holes. Our nose tackle spot for the new 3-4 scheme is a talent black hole. And in the secondary, bringing in a nearly 30-year-old Teron Johnson with a chronic injury history was a massive shot in the foot. We should have hunted down a young, elite free safety with that money. But overall, we crawled out of the mud. The offense got a heavy backbone, and the defense is out for blood. Super quick recap of the madness. Baltimore's embarrassment handed us back our pissed-off spiritual leader. The GM built a brutal young trench with Linderbaum and the Georgia linebackers, but we lost picks that leave rookie Fernando Mendoza without a true elite WR1. Now for the million-dollar question that I want to see blow up the comments. With Crosby back and in win-now mode, but without an alpha receiver on the roster, would you rather see Spytek burn our future picks in a wild trade for a dominant WR, or do you trust Kubiak to work a miracle with Genty's legs and save the cash to bulletproof the secondary? Drop your hottest takes down below because I'm reading and debating with all of you. Just win, baby.